As we all know, method feeder fishing, pellet feeder fishing is massive nowadays. And as you can probably tell, being a consultant for Sonubaits and Press Innovations, I'm always messing around with stuff in my garage. And I'm going to show you now my go-to sort of 2mm pellet approach for like your method and your pellet feeder. Now here I've got 3 bags. Obviously there's a cost involved in that, but what you got to remember is those 3 bags will probably last me up to 3 sessions. Now I'm going to show you, there's a great big carp just top there actually, so they're all waiting for a bit of bait to come in. So I'm going to show you exactly what I do and why I use these pellets. Now these are called krill and squid. They're actually sticky pellets or sticky method pellets. Now these I love, especially on a venue like I am today at Farley Woods. This is a real coloured lake, it's sort of brown, you know, there's lots of carp in here. And to me, these pellets are an absolute must. One, they got that sort of sticky sort of substance to them if you want. You can use them neat, but what I actually do is mix them with my other pellets. So I'm not going to put loads of these in. You can vary it. I probably put something like 200 to 300 ml of them in, and they smell absolutely beautiful. They're real spicy, and I love that in fishing. It's a bit like when I'm roach fishing, like coriander. I just love that sort of smell. And then you've got the Pro Feed. Now the Pro Feed actually go through a process in the factory. There's an actual oil added to the pellet. So they're really high protein. And obviously going into the summer months and things like that, I think it's an absolute must. Now, what as well, because these have actually got oil put into the pellet, it stops the pellet from breaking down so quick. And I think that's really good because you get that binding effect as well, which is obviously when we fish a method feeder, you can vary. And I love that about method feeder fishing. I want to use pellets that I can vary what it's actually doing on the feeder. And what I normally do with these, depending on how many you want to do on a day, you can measure them out if you want. You can sort of do, you know, a pint of each. So I'm going to put like 3/4 pint of Pro Feed in there. And then I've also got the standard Fin Perfect pellets. These are like your standard pellet. They don't go through a process like they do with the Pro Feed, but these will take a lot of water on and they go like quite spongy. Again, you can feed them or use them straight out of the bag. But if you do this little mix that I'm using, I think it just makes the perfect 2mm pellet for going around a method feeder. So what I'm going to do, and like I said, you've got 3 bags, but it's going to last you 3 times the amount of time, you know, when you go fishing. So I'm going to put about the same of that in, like that, mix them around a bit. And then you end up with a couple of different colours as well. You've got a couple of different browns. You've also got the little red sort of pellets in there, which I think is absolutely awesome when you're fishing the method feeder. And what you do then, if you're sort of a bit confused about how to sort of, you know, soak them, use a pellet wetter. It's, you know, that's what it's for at the end of the day. It makes things easy. So put your pellets in a pellet wetter like that. Do your little bag up. And then tip some water. Let me just move them out of the way a minute. You've got a little EVA bowl there. Tip some water in there right up to the top. Now, another thing that people ask me, Des, one of the most important things is how long do you soak your pellets? I don't soak them for very long because, like I said at the start, I want to be able to change what I'm doing with method feeder. As the session goes on, if I get a lot of fish in my peg, or if you go to a venue where there's lots of little carp, little F1s, and you start getting lots of pecking and you're struggling to catch, you might want to put it on really hard. So the way I do it, I feel like I can change what I'm doing on a method feeder, which is important as your day goes on. So I've got a little stopwatch there, just to sort of confirm what I do. Stick them in, like that, trying to don't get wet. Start your little thing, and I think about 20 seconds, you know, loads of people say to me, Christ, that's not long. But 20 seconds for me, I think it just gives me a lot more, you know, things that I can do on the method feeder. If you soak them for too long and the pellets go really, really soft, you really struggle to do different things with how you load the method up. So that's up to like 20 seconds now. I'm going to take them out, which is, you know, not long at all. Shake them off. And that's what's so good about a pellet wetter. All the pellets at the bottom, you know, they're going to be exactly the same as the pellets at the top. You can just leave that on the ground. And then obviously you want to be doing this. I've just set my box up. I'm now going to do a couple more bits and pieces. But do this, I would say, an absolute minimum of 30 minutes before you actually want to use the pellets. Well, that's the pellets ready to use now. I've got my method set up. I'm chucking to a nice island today. It is absolutely roasting hot, to be honest. It's probably the hottest day of the year. But that's why I've got actually a tub of water there. So it's lake water. And what I like to do, and that's why I don't soak them for that long, is they're actually now absolutely perfect to go around a method. But with the weather conditions and as the session goes on, they will dry out. And that's why that water's there. And I do that with micros and ground bait. I can literally just flick a few drops in there, whiz the first couple of inches down on the micros like that, and it brings them back. Now, if you soak your pellets too long, you'll find that they're just too soft and they don't bind. That's the whole process for me with a method feeder. Is the baits that you're using, whether it's ground bait or micros, you can get it to bind. And if you can get it to bind, you can then vary how you load your method. You can load it hard, you can load it soft, you can have the bait stay on if you're fishing in deep water, and even having the bait stay on sometimes when you're getting lots of taps, that's when you need to put your bait on really hard. If you soak them for too long, it's like having too wet ground bait. You're just very limited to what you can do. So I'm going to load this up. I've got my little mould. At the moment, I'm on a little ICS method with an elasticated stem, 30 grams, because I'm chucking probably 30 odd meters, I would say. And I know the island is quite steep shelved. And that's one of the reasons why I'm using an elasticated stem. You can obviously use it on this fishery and I can chuck it out. I don't have to tighten down. So if you're fishing anywhere with like a real steep bank, if you're allowed, fish with elasticated stem because you can keep everything slack, and then obviously it's like a little bolt rig. So I'm going to half fill my mould like that. Put me bandem in. I'm fishing little 6mm Scopex bandems. Put that in the middle. Load it up and I just thumb the pellets in. And you can probably tell from that they're absolutely bang on. Put your method in like that. And if you get your pellets right, they don't stick in the mould either. It's just so much less messing around, and they're spot on. Now I could leave it like that, or I could give it a squeeze, and that's the difference between doing it right and wrong with your pellets. If you do it right like that, it is so easy to do. So let's give it a cast out. It's quite awkward as I've got a few trees. I've got to cast quite hard. Get it out there. Get everything. It's literally, if you probably see from that, my rod's quite straight as well where I'm casting. And that's for a reason. It's so much easier. It's out of the way. I'm waiting for these sort of bites. You get all sorts of different bites. Some of the bites might be little drop backs. Some of them might be really aggressive where they take your rod right round. We don't know. Every day's different. When I come a few weeks back, a lot of the bites, because I'm fishing on a real steep shelf, the tip would just literally go like that and you see all the line go slack. And sometimes it was a bite, and sometimes it's probably where they just sort of, a carp's come along and dislodge the feeder or a skimmer. So that's it. Let's start. I've got my little stopwatch out. And that's really helpful on a lot of days I go feeder fishing. It's obviously we've only just started, so we're going to need. And then what I do then, as the sessions go along, mix your pellets about like that. And if they dry out a little bit, literally dip your hand in them water, a few drops like that, and just spin, like I said, spin that couple of inches, and they're ready then for your next cast. You can even actually just sort of, once you start catching lots of carp, you can just like get your mould half loaded, ready to go. And then hopefully, we're not going to use any keep nets today because it is absolutely scorching hot. So for fish welfare, we're not going to put anything in keep nets. We're just going to land them and put them straight back, and we'll take a few photos for you as the day goes on. Well, there's a beautiful Farley Woods carp. Let's just get the hook out of him a minute, out of the way. I'm going to try and hold him up, but we're not going to keep him in the nets or anything long because it is an absolute scorching hot day here. But that's what you can expect when you get your method right, your pellets right. Little Scopex yellow bandum, which is what I caught on last time I come. For certain, yellow on the day, but this coloured water was the best. It's probably getting on for 10, 11 pound that. Well, like I said, I'm not going to keep them out long because it is scorching. But what a beautiful, beautiful place to fish and a beautiful carp to catch. Let's get him back.